A look at our top stories there. Time to see what's making business and financial news as the spread of the coronavirus continues to affect all lives in China. It's taking particularly a hard toll on industry. Brian Quinn is here from our business desk with the details. Brian.
Oh, Will, some 24 major trade fairs and industry conferences have been canceled in China and the surrounding region amid travel bans and contagion fears. The safety concerns have affected supply chains with the movement of both workers and freight now severely restricted. That's taking a major bite out of the region's critical automobile manufacturing sector. James Wilson takes a closer look.
The Chinese car industry had high hopes that it could use India's 2020 Auto Expo to expand further into the lucrative Indian market. But the deadly coronavirus meant that most Chinese officials decided it was better to stay home, preferring instead to be represented by their Indian employees.
Our company has decided that it's better that they don't come because the impact of the Chinese with the coronavirus might have some negative feeling for some people.
Wuhan, where the virus originated, is also an epicenter of the auto industry. 50% of the city's manufacturing relates to the car industry, producing components for brands around the world. With the region in lockdown, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles have said that production at one of its European plants is at risk if supply chains remained blocked. And Hyundai said it had been forced to shut all its car factories in South Korea after running out of wiring harnesses from China.
Keep in mind, China has become the global hub for production, manufacturing, and distribution. So if workers are unable to go to work and so factories are unable to produce, it's going to have a significant impact.
At least 24 provinces, municipalities and other regions in China have ordered businesses to stay shut until the 10th of February. Companies hope that means production can resume next week, but officials have urged caution, suggesting disruptions could last for longer than expected.
Russia is now backing a plan by the OPEC oil cartel to cut output by some 600,000 barrels per day. The proposal comes after a sharp dip in demand hit crude markets due to travel cuts and manufacturing cutbacks amid that coronavirus outbreak. Oil prices have fallen by nearly 1/5 since the start of the outbreak. Russia is allied with OPEC, but not an official member. Moscow had initially resisted production cuts, but now says it's on board. Here's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov.
Of course, this will affect the oil market. We're interested in continuing consultations which should determine the optimum acceptable measures for all exporters in the oil market so that there are no harmful charges to producers or consumers.
And checking in on the markets now, Asian stock indexes mostly losing ground Friday as investors wait for China's latest trade data for January. It looks like they might not get that until after February. Chinese indexes mixed at the close as Donald Trump and Xi Jinping reconfirm their commitment to their Phase 1 trade deal. Here in Europe, indexes opening in the red. London's FTSE 100 off around 0.1% at the open. The CAC 40 in Paris down nearly 0.2%. Frankfurt DAX is down over 1/3% as new data out of Germany shows industrial output for January down 3.5% from the previous month, a continuing decline. Speaking of Germany, Chancellor Angela Merkel is in South Africa on a 2-day visit. There, she took the opportunity to encourage the development of the African Continental Free Trade Area. The 55-nation trade bloc was agreed to in March of 2019. Proponents hope the ACFTA will help unlock the continent's economic potential by boosting regional trade. Merkel cited Europe's experience in creating a single market as she offered some advice.
The African Union has agreed upon a free trade zone. We know from the complexity of a digital single market how difficult that is. We know how many non-tariff constraints can come down if one doesn't want the single market to entirely become a free market zone.
And finally, for business, mixing the perfect cocktail can be a bit of art and science. Now a bit of science fiction as a bar in Tokyo has rolled out its new robot bartender. Adapted from an industrial robot, it can pour a beer in 40 seconds, mix a cocktail in roughly a minute. The trial could be the start of a wave of automation expected to hit Japanese service industries amid a labor shortage caused by a rapidly aging workforce. And if you're worried about missing the human touch, apparently the robot is programmed to talk about the weather. It seems a bit antisocial, Will. I don't know, but I take a drink from him all the same.
40 seconds to pour a beer? That's a lot of weather talk.
Doesn't seem like maybe the most efficient beer pouring in the world.
Doesn't sound like a way to get a tip.
I see like a Paul Bunyan railroad thing. No, wait, who is the John? Never mind.
John Henry.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Brian Quinn with a look at the business news.